Hey guys, in this video, I am going to show you the fastest way to go from noob to pro. And I'm not gonna talk too much about going all the way to the highest pro levels, but the concept that you're gonna get from this video is going to be so important. Like if you have a friend that's gonna watch a video, this is the video, and they're like, how do I understand this game? This is the video that I would send them so that they understand the game. Because this game, if they've played Kafir model games before, they're gonna understand a little bit of the concept. You've got your house, you go to the zones, you get materials, you bring them back, you upgrade your house, and it's amazing. It's a very cool concept. It's really fun to start over new. But what I'm gonna show you is gonna be this game specific, okay? Not every game. I mean, I just told you the basic concept. Maybe go watch my tips and tricks videos for Frostborn or Last Day on Earth, and you'll understand the concept of those games on the main channel. But this video is really going to give you the concept of specifically Epic Ape Madness and why this game is actually, I think, even better than than any other Kafir game in workbench progression. And basically what that means is, you know, I go to the suburban houses and I can go get plastic trash, maybe a plastic panel every once in a while. I can go get metal scraps, I could get wood scraps, all of those things. But and this first thing is going to be pretty intuitive, but I'm going to mention it so that you see the context that I'm talking about. Basically, then you can come and you can use this workstation to turn the wood scraps into wood planks, the metal scraps into, you know, metal planks, and so on and so forth. The reason why, I mean, that's cool. That is kind of the typical thing, but every once in a while in these games, there are some workbenches that are far more effective than the other ones, okay? Honestly, I almost never use my workbench anymore because I never even pick up wood scraps. I get enough wood planks in the maps that I don't need it. But that is not, so one of the biggest game changers is this workbench right here called the workbench. I lied to you. It's not this one. This one is helpful, but I'm actually talking about this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you on here. The way this game works is you can upgrade rooms, which are very expensive in ballers, and you expand your house, and then you can build workstations within those. And you have to have certain things unlocked. For example, the recycler, I need to have the office. They don't actually have the recycler in the game yet, but in order for me to get the recycler, I would need to get level 65, which that's where it isn't in the game. Level 61 is the max level right now in the CBT, which is where we're at. And I would need to get an office, which you can see when you go back to the rooms, that an office costs $100,000. Out of my league, I'm not there yet, but again, it's not actually in the game. So I've gotten pretty much everything in the game at this point that I can get, and I'm going to explain that here in a little bit. So these are workbenches, and some of them, I mean, they're all somewhat important. No, they're not all important, but I think you should build them all because they're not that bad. Biggest one is the weapons table, okay? Being able to have the level 1 weapons unlocked. I think the bat you started out with. The golf club. Okay, so the bat and the zip gun you start out with, and then these 4 weapons come from the level 1 workbench. Being able to build the golf club and the pistol is not quite the same as what I'm going to be talking about. I personally never really ever built a golf club or a pistol. I don't really think it's necessary. I did a bat, and I did the green zone with the bat, and I farmed the green zone a lot. I got a lot of materials, and then when you move up to the second zone, you need to have the level 2 workbench so that you can get, really you're hoping to have a knife and a revolver. That's gonna be the big game changer. But before you get to that, so that's when you're gonna move to that next step, and really technically you're only intermediate, but when you can craft your own revolvers and knives, the game becomes quite easy. You go up, you one-shot all the lower guys. You almost finish off the medium guys, and then you just finish them off with the revolver, and then you take out the other guy. So that's a big step in the right direction. The problem is it won't actually feel like that right away without another very important workbench, because a knife requires springs, and springs are hard to find, and you need a lot of them in this game. And springs is one of those things. This is one of the things I love about this game. Springs is one of those things you'll be so desperate for, so desperate for, so desperate for, and then you will build the workbench. No, not the workbench. I keep saying that. Engineer table, that's what it is. You notice you need 10 springs to get the engineering table. Okay, that's a lot of springs when you're first starting off. You're gonna have to farm the second zone without those weapons, unless you have a higher level friend that can help you. And it's really hard to do, especially because, you know, you look at some of these other things. Well, actually, none of these say they need springs, but one of the things about Epic Ape Survival is this is just the start. You build it, and then you have to assemble it. Pretty much every workbench, you have to assemble it after you build it. And so, and a lot of them, once you get into like the kitchen and the laboratory and the sewing station, all of them require springs as well. You need a lot of springs. And so you might be tempted to, well, I built the sewing table. Let's say the sewing table was, I mean, that's pretty easy, right? Plastic, wood, tape, which we have a million of, and these screws, not as hard. And you're like, I'm gonna just build that. Well, then you see it needs springs. I'm like, well, you know what? I haven't even built the engineering table yet. I'm gonna focus on the sewing table, get that in, then I can get level 2 gear. Don't do that. You are hitting yourself. You're really screwing yourself over. The main thing you need to do is you need to get this engineering table. Every spring, I would say, I can't think of a single use of a spring before this engineering table. Okay, every spring you get, you're gonna save until you have 10 of them, and then you're gonna build this engineering table. Assembling the engineering table is not nearly as much work as those 10 springs are. Okay, there we go. So you can see once you assemble it, it's a shaft, a glass. You're gonna get that before you get 10 springs. 20 of these, I'm gonna show you how to get those. That's gonna be a little bit harder to just find because you'll be using them. But the rest of this stuff, you will find. The steel plates, by this time you will probably have a furnace, level 2 furnace, which will allow you to make your own steel plates. But honestly, even finding 10 steel plates will be cheaper than getting 10 springs. Will be easier than getting 10 springs. You're going to get a lot more of those than you get springs. So this is very important. You're going to assemble this, which requires 10 springs. It's going to be a lot of work. You're going to have to do that level 2 zone, and it's going to be like, oh, this is excruciating to try to find all these springs. Okay, don't spend those springs on anything else. Get those springs, finish your engineering table, then it's going to look like this. Assemble this. You should, if you saved all this stuff, like you're watching this video and you're not at this point yet, look at this, write down these numbers, save a screenshot, save 20 plastic panels, 20 or plastic panels you can get in the green zone, save a shaft, a metal toolbox, a one piece of glass. This is not hard to get. Save it so that you have it, because the engineering table is the portal to your success, at least at an intermediate level, if not advanced in this game. Because once you do that, and you're gonna need 10 screws. You'll notice you can get a screw. Once you build the workstation, you can build a screw for 1 iron plate. Very cheap. Once you finish the engineering table, then you can build springs for 1 steel plate. Okay, so to put that in perspective, 1 steel plate is the equivalent of 2 iron plates and 2 wooden planks. So you could do just the green zone if you wanted. Just do the green zone, put it in the furnace, make a bunch of steel plates, and you can make 20 steel plates like I just did, and then you can go click and you can make 20 springs instantly. Something that is so hard to find in the zone. You got to work for it, you got to work for it, you got to work for it, and then all of a sudden, boom, it is like you've got 20 springs, and you're like, wow, that was easy. Okay, that's the difference. And the same thing with wires, or sorry, cables. You need the wire and the steel plates. That's still very cheap compared to finding cables. You're going to need a lot of cables. You can make it. Even electrical wire. In a previous video, I said you don't need a lot of electrical wire, like you're going to find more than you need. It's not 100% true. The more advanced you get, sometimes you run into situations. Well, actually, that would be true, except with the engineering table, if you start crafting springs and cables, you get them so fast that you may end up not getting electrical wires fast enough. So the engineering table ends up creating the need. But again, 2 plastic, 2 wire. That's pretty cheap. It also gives you a perspective of when you're in the zone to realize, oh, when I find an electrical wire, that is the equivalent of 2 plastic panels. Okay? So if I've got these other things, plastic's very valuable. You should just always take the plastic. But let's say we were talking about something less. Yeah, like, okay, say there was a cable, and then you're like, but I could have 4 wires. It's like, or maybe it's 6 wires, and you got a full stack of wire and a full stack of steel, and you leave a cable in the zone. I don't think you'd ever do that, but you could, and you could just craft more cables here. So this should give you perspective, and this really changes the whole game. Once you build your engineer table, the whole game changes. It is the portal, because then upgrading your weapon table, which I have back here because I don't actually use it, upgrading this weapon table to level 2 requires a lot of springs. Don't put them in there, okay? I can't emphasize enough, don't put the springs in there because until you finish your engineering table, because this weapon table is worthless without that engineering table. And here's why. Because if you want to craft a revolver, it costs 2 springs. Now that's nothing. I'll create 1 million of these. I love revolvers. I'll make so many of them. But back then, 2 springs was hard to find. So I hope that puts a little bit of the perspective of this game is about getting to certain points, getting something unlocked, and then you can have 1 million of them. And it's really cool because they made revolvers very cheap. Yeah, they made revolvers very cheap to craft. They're very hard to get, and they're so useful. They make farming a level 2 zone very easy, which is kind of basically what the Desert Eagle does a little bit to the third. The third zone is still harder, even if you've got the same setup, mainly just because if you ever do lose your gear, they could kill you in a few seconds. And that makes the third zone a little bit harder. I'm going to give you just a very good tutorial on how to do the third zone. Okay, so basically, to just kind of summarize all that, the main thing you need to factor in is that getting certain workbenches are going to make your life very much easier. Knowing what are you raring, what are you needing more of. If it is screws, which sometimes it is screws, then you need to get a workbench, because a workbench will take iron plates, which you'll get a ton of, and you'll be able to just turn them into screws, no problem. The biggest one for everyone, okay, I'm telling you, this is a big one too, the plastic shredder. Plastic panels are hard, so being able to craft, the plastic parts. A stack of 20 will get you 5, plastic panels. It's not amazing, but any plastic you can get will help. So that's helpful. This one's helpful. The furnace is obviously helpful, very helpful. But the number one workbench that you need to be you're setting all your sights on is this engineering table. When you play the game, if you're smart, you will start the game thinking, all right, how am I going to get that engineering table? Those ingredients that I showed you guys, let's go and show you one more time. Engineering table. These ingredients, these are not, the screws and then definitely the springs are the hardest things to get here. And then you move on to this one. The 20 screws is going to be hard. I would say that 10 springs is still way harder than 30 screws. So the 10 springs is the hardest thing. Everything else you should be able to get quite a bit of before you get your 10 springs. Save them, finish that engineering table, and then you will have springs. Once you have springs, cables, and electrical wires. Obviously, before you get there, you need to have your furnace, which is the second biggest workbench that changes the game in Epic Ape. Being able to turn iron into steel is a big deal, getting that level 2 workbench. And then the third, or you have to do those first. don't rush your weapon table. But then once you get your weapon table to level 2, not even your sewing table, it's great to get level 2 gear and be able to build a level 2 backpack. That's important. You can trade for a level 2 backpack, so I wouldn't worry about that. Level 2 gear is good when you want to move up to level 3. But the big game changer in this game, what will shift you, I mean, I can't emphasize much how dramatically it will change your game. You'll be like, man, this game's hard, it's so hard to get the resources I need. You get that engineering table and you're going to be like, I'm rich. And it's not that hard to get anything I want. It is that dramatic of a change. And then once you get that, then you're going to get your workbench. And because you got your weaponsmith up to 2, because you did that, because you got the furnace, then the metal plates, the steel plates, and the springs will be easy. Okay, the furnace is producing steel plates, the engineering table is building tons of springs. You're set for life. These other resources, you can see the pistol ammo and the high quality gun parts. I've got tons of them. I could make almost 20 guns right now, and I didn't even work hard. Sometimes I throw away those parts, and I've already made a lot of guns. The real limiting factor in getting the revolver is this. So that's mainly it. That is the main tip. There is more, like as far as going to the advanced. Honestly, I mean, like if you look at the advanced weaponry, getting your furnace up to level 3 is going to be a big part, because you're going to need to turn the aluminum scraps into aluminum blanks. Not sure if that's a typo, but it's literally consistently blanks instead of planks. So I think that is not a typo. I think a blank is just an engineering term I'm not familiar with. But then look at this other stuff. I mean, this is just something you find at the red zone. You're going to find faster than you are using your guns. This is from the furnace, level 2. This is from the plastic thing I showed you, and then more pistol ammo is very easy to get in any zone. So really, the level 3 does not have the same connection. You got to get the furnace up to level 3 to be able to bust out these guns and to bust out these axes, which is what you're going to need. But it's not nearly as big of a deal as the engineering table. Okay, so right now they don't have the motor. So this is the frustrating thing about the game right now. When I come over here to get a level 3 workbench, apparently they took the electric motor out of the game, so it's really demotivated me from farming the red zone. I haven't put anything else in here yet, even though I have some of these items, because I'm waiting. I don't want to fill this up and then them change something, or so if I get the 2 motors, I'll fill up the weapons table, and then I can move up to the advanced, where I've got level 3 gear, level 3 weapons. Level 2 gear with level 3 weapons is good enough. I have quite a few fire axes built up and quite a few desert eagles, and I have no problem farming the 3rd zone. The only thing is I either have to offset my gear, or I need to bring a little bit of extra gear, because my level 2 armor, even full durability level 2 armor, will break if I'm fully farming the zone. And so I just need to put on a couple extra pieces of gear just to make sure that because if you get hit by those mobs and you are naked, I mean, they're gonna 3-shot you. It's really bad. So that's the only difference. So it's really actually a bigger jump to go from beginner to intermediate than it is to go from intermediate to pro. If you can make it to really, this is what I'd say. When you build your engineering table, you can say, I'm no longer a beginner at this game. I am now on my way to becoming a pro. It won't happen instantly, but you will find the game will be a lot easier. Just everything's going to come easier to you. So if you're starting this game, this is what you need to be going for. I need that engineering table. What are those parts that I need? I already showed you guys, but I'm going to show you guys one more time, just so that you can take a screenshot or write this down somewhere. But you need these 4 slots of ingredients, and then you need these ingredients. Okay, this is going to total at 30 of these, 30 of these, 20 of those. No, not even 20 of these, because you only need iron plates for the first part. So 10 of these, 10 iron plates, one of these, 20 of these, and then just 20 of these. So really, and then the 10 springs is the kicker. Okay, 30 of these, the 10 springs is the biggest one. 30 of these is going to be a little bit harder. If you have a furnace, getting 10 of these isn't going to be hard. Go ahead. I don't think the level 2 furnace requires springs. If it does, that's a hard call, but I don't think it does. And so really, get your level 2 furnace, get your engineering table, and then you can backtrack and fill everything else out that has springs. Do not do it unless you have all of those ingredients saved waiting to build your engineering table. Do not do it. You also have to be level 28 to get your engineering table, but go watch my videos on how to level up, and that will cover all of that. All right, guys, see you next time.